Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Marsha. It's been a busy morning already.
I know, very busy. And I just have to let people know, I don't know if this is a warning, but let people know that I am dog sitting. So I have, of course, I have Enzo, and then my friend Kim is in Hawaii this week. So I have her dog, Orkney. And if people don't know about him, he has a fancy name. He's called a Legato Romagnolo. They're also called Italian water dogs. Anyway, he's a very good boy, but he does have one bad habit where any little noise, he leaps up and barks and warns you like someone's breaking into the house or something. It's a very alarming bark. And so he's laying here on a pillow next to me sleeping. So we'll see how this goes. But if he does start barking, we may have to stop, or we'll have to edit it out or something.
Yeah. We may have barking that can't be removed.
Yeah. So. And fair warning, he's really loud.
I'll do my best in the editing to minimize what I can.
Yeah. And I will say it's been very interesting. I won't go on a lot about this, but it's been interesting having him here because he comes to my house a lot. And then he's here every weekend, when Kim has been in the basement, when we're doing weaving, and, he comes for dinner and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, they live with me for 4 months when she was going through her kitchen remodel. So he's very familiar with my house and comfortable. But Enzo's behavior is so interesting to me because Enzo, as you know, Kelly, is a very soft dog. He does not like harsh corrections at all. Doesn't need a lot of corrections. And he's a very needy dog. As you always say, typical male.
Yes. Sweet is the word that some people use.
Yes, he's very sweet. Which kind of makes your skin crawl a little bit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Or is that too extreme?
I've gotten better since I have Barry, I have to admit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm a little less,
But anyway, since Orkney's been here, he's very clingy. Like very clingy. And normally when we record, he just lays on the bed and ignores me. And today he's been sitting next to me. And now I've got Orkney's on his pillow next to me. But now Enzo has to get between me and Orkney and lay on the floor on top of all of my power cords and everything. So very interesting. I don't it's very clingy. And if I touch Orkney, Enzo has to get in there and get his head in there and push my hand away.
Mm-hmm.
And really a very interesting experience. Anyway, but he's been a good boy, but I shouldn't talk any more about this. I shouldn't jinx it. And we should keep going because it's going to get closer to that time that he wants to go out and walk. So anyway, let's get right to it.
All right. That sounds good.
So when I say let's get right to it, where do we want to start?
Let's go ahead and draw prizes since we're a little bit late with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to let people know who have won the prizes from the pop-up prize giveaway that we had in July, late July. I have not mailed your packages. I think I might have said to someone that I was planning to do it a couple of weeks ago, and that didn't happen. And so I will be mailing them all out together. The pop-up prizes from the summer, and ideally, all intentions were to get them to you during the spin-in, but that didn't happen. So we'll be sending out all the prizes all all together at once. So just hang tight if you were one of the previous prize winners, and then we're going to announce the finished prizes. And speaking of barking, do you hear my dogs?
Yes. Should we say that we pulled prizes from both the finished object thread and the discussion thread?
We did. And I also want to let people know that some of the prizes, and we'll note which ones as we go along, but some of the prizes that we're going to be awarding today were donated by one of our listening community, Debbie Yarn Girl 52. She's a longtime 2Use member, and she messaged me earlier this year about prizes that she had that she wanted to make available, or some items that she had that she wanted to send to me so that we could use them as prizes. And so that's pretty cool. Thank you, Debbie. Really appreciate it. And they're from her, they're all from, all of the prizes that are coming from Debbie are from her alpacas or from her dyeing that she used to do. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. So our first prize is 9 ounces of black, brown, and white braid from Valley Oak Wool Mill. It's equal parts Perrindale lamb's wool, which is black, Dorset Cross lamb's wool, which is white, and Corriedale Cross, which is brown. And it's 100% fiber shed certified. And the winner of that is Sane 1, Kathleen.
All right. Yeah, that is a really nice braid. It's super big. It's, the 3 colors are braided together. And it's really good size and nice and puffy and natural wool goodness. So
I'm going to take your word for it because you have them in front of you. I don't have them. They're there so I can't touch them.
I'm squishing it right now. And smelling it.
Okay. Okay, and then our next prize is actually 2. We have 2 prizes. We have 2 $50 gift certificates from Valley Oak Wool Mill, and one is going to Aeon. I think we're pronouncing that right. Aeon, Raven. And the other is going to Knittin' Mama 3, Suzanne.
Yes, this is a really, I think, really cool prize. This Valley Oak Wool Mill holds a kind of a dear place in my heart because it used to be YOLO Wool Mill. And back when I was an early spinner, and then it was purchased by Markale, and she renamed it Valley Oak Wool Mill and has really made a good go of this business. I think she's coming up on her 6th anniversary of starting the business. So she has some really nice different rovings and yarns. She just posted coming soon. She has some yarn dyed by the 2023 batch of pokeberries that she grew. She's up in the Sacramento area. Okay. So yeah, we have 2 gift certificates. Those 2 gift certificates, you will really enjoy them. The next one is donated by Debbie, and this is an alpaca fleece. And the bag has a little sticker on it that says Aurora, which I believe would be the name of the alpaca. And then it says blanket, which is actually the portion, like the best portion of the fleece. I think it's right at the top of their back and sides. And that's called the blanket. Anyway, so it's about 9 ounces of alpaca fleece. And this is going to Salpal 1, Sarah.
All right. And then the next we have 2, this is also from Debbie, 2 hand-dyed braids. The colors you've got listed here, Kelly, orange sherbet, purples, and lemon sherbet. And you want to say anything? Oh, I'll say who won that. So Margin Mirror, Margaret, she has won the braids. And do you want to say anything more about the braids?
Yeah, they're hand-dyed by Debbie, and they are... Well, the name of one of the braids is called Winter Sunrise. That's the one that has the orange sherbet and purple. And then the name of the other braid is called Spring Sunrise, and that has some yellow and some purples. And they go really well together. They're 3.5, I think they're 3.5 ounces each. And actually one of them's 4 ounces and one of them's 3.5 ounces. And they're 100% Falkland wool. You could definitely spin each one of them and ply them together, or mix them together and spin them randomly. They really go together nicely. Okay. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And Margaret was spinning. She's a newer spinner, and she was spinning sort of a mystery wool during the spin-in. So for this, she'll know what it is. So yeah, enjoy that.
All right. And then the last one, do you want to say what that one is?
Yes. I'll just, these are 2 skeins that Debbie has donated of 100% alpaca yarn. And it's listed as a 3-ply sport. Although to me, it looks a little thicker than that. But alpaca is really poofy. So but also dense in a way. So how the yarn gets categorized might be more along the lines of what it looks like when it's more stretched. And in that case, it looks like a sport. But in the skein, it looks like it's heavier than a sport. But it's a toffee, really pretty, silky, toffee brown color yarn. And I don't have a weight. I don't have a weight of the skeins, but they look like they're probably about 3 ounce. Each of them are about 3 ounce or 3.5 ounce skeins. Beautiful, silky, soft, poofy alpaca. So Mary, you'll enjoy those.
Okay.
Oh yeah, did I say who won that one? Mary Knit Admin. The one who I'm like, Mary, you'll enjoy those. Which Mary? Mary Knit Admin.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for the participation in the summer spin-in. We had over 1,000 posts, actually over 1,100 posts in the chat. You guys are a pretty chatty group. And it was really fun talking with all of you over the course of the summer spin-in and seeing your projects and getting inspired. And I don't know, it's just always fun. Like I say to Robert, he'll say, "What are you doing?" when I'm on the computer. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just talking to my friends about spinning."
Well, and we won't go through the list of the finished objects, but it's really worth checking out. There are some very, very cute projects that people knit with their hand spun. I'm thinking of the chicken.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And also, forgive me. I was going to make a note of this. Who made it? Oh, I think it's Hockey Rachel made the nest with the eggs in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think.
And it was Natalie who made the chicken.
The chicken, yeah. So very cute. And then some really beautiful hand spun and lots of yardage. I was just impressed. So it was very nice. So as I say, we won't go through the whole list, but it really is worth, if you've not checked out the list, check out the list of finished objects. And then
I'm going to add just one other thing. Kathleen Sane One, who won the Valley Oak braid, she also has a thread that she's put up in our group called 23 and Me, which she says is not related to, it's her 2023 project. She wanted to do 23 projects in 2023, and she's focused mostly on working with her hand spun. And that's another great source of ideas for, all of the spinning that you did this summer. Especially if you've never or rarely knit with your hand spun, check out some of the stuff that she's got in that thread, because it really is kind of inspiring to see. She's, some of it is old hand spun that she's had for a really long time, and some of it is newer hand spun, but it's fun to look at her projects. I've appreciated Kathleen putting that thread up there, and there have been other people contributing as well, who are kind of doing a craft along with her in that thread. So check that out too.
Okay. Now this is a little out of order. Well, it's first of all, congratulations to everybody. Really love seeing all of it, and I think everybody had a lot of fun too. So But, and again, as I said, this is a bit of out of order because we usually announce this at the end, but the winter weave along is now beginning now that the summer spin in has ended. And that starts October 1st.
Yes.
So...
And we are Northern Hemisphere centric. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can swap them if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. You are more than welcome to have a summer weave along and a winter spin in.
Yeah. Yes, because this is what I did learn. That I said this, I think, in one episode that I did everything backwards. So.
Yeah. Marsha's joining you.
Yes, I'm pretending I'm in the Southern Hemisphere. But what I found is that weaving, for me personally, is not a summer thing. It's because you can't take it outside. Like difficult to pick up my loom anyway and move it outside. So, and it's you can spin on the deck, but it's difficult to weave on the deck. And when some of these beautiful days, it was difficult to be sitting in the basement, weaving. I think for me personally, the weave along is going to be a winter thing.
Yeah. But I can imagine too, if you lived in a place where it was really hot during the summer, it might be really nice to sit inside.
That's true.
To sit inside your house in a nice, cool place and weave.
That's true. I'm thinking of my climate.
Yeah.
I'm being very self-centered.
Coastal centric. Well, we both are, really.
I'm just being self-centered is what I mean.
Yeah. Doesn't everyone live on the coast in the Northern Hemisphere, in the California or the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah. I am just going to mention too, I do need to get another weaving project, or either order a kit or order some yarn or something, because the winter weave along, as I say, it's starting October 1st. It ends March 31st. But the loom that I have, as I've talked about, Kim and I are sharing the loom. So she did some towels, I did some towels, and now she's warped the loom and has started weaving her second set of towels. I think she's going to make 8. It has about 10 yards on there. So it's going to be a much longer project than the other one. But her pattern or her kit that she purchased, beautiful, but it's 3 shades of cream, very, very pale gray, and like a medium gray, and 480 ends that she had to warp the loom with at 10 yards. And I'm going to say, if you are a new weaver, don't warp your loom, or don't choose colors that are so close, because she really could only work in the daylight hours. I mean, if it got anywhere past 4 o'clock, because she couldn't see the difference. She had to alternate the colors, and she could not. They were so close that she couldn't see. It was very difficult for her to see, to alternate.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? See
which
the
color
difference
was
in
which?
Colors. Which color was which? Now, you could also argue, well, if it's so close, you're not going to tell in the finished project, right? Because then I think there's a 4th color that is like a darker gray that's clearly, but that's not what you're warping with. That's what you're going to weave with. So, so it took her a long time. And then because the colors were so difficult to differentiate, she had she had to warp it, take it out and warp it a second time, because she had put some of the threads through the wrong heddles. So there was a lot of, And finally, when she was done, she has a mistake in there that she said, finally, we agreed, it's so close.
Yeah.
I don't know. She said she couldn't deal with it, doing it again a third time. So she's just going to, and I said, my experience with I had made a mistake in my towels, and my experiences, it sort of came out in the wash. You can't see it at all. So fingers crossed it'll be okay.
And is it all wound on?
It's all wound on, yeah.
Okay. And you didn't have any trouble with that?
No.
Oh, good.
Not really.
Because I wouldn't recommend a 10-yard warp for a beginning weaver.
No,
either.
I would
just
not
the length
recommend
of
it.
Is tricky.
No, I would not
on.
recommend that. It was. It took us a long time to wind it on because we could wind on like 6 inches. Stop. 6. I mean, it's not like you're just because undoing those the chains.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call those? The
chain. The warp chain.
Warp chains. And one of them, she didn't take the ties out soon enough, and it got very tangled. So it took us. Actually, I think it took us all day to get the warp wound onto the back thing because it was tangled. So if you're a new weaver, I don't recommend 10 yards. I don't recommend colors that are so
close together.
Yeah, it's just a public service announcement,
right? Right. Yes. And probably not 400 ends or whatever it was that you said.
480.
Yeah. No, don't all of that. Don't do any of that if you're a new weaver.
Yes. But on the bright side, I'm going to say, so now it's this last weekend, she came last Sunday, and she started weaving, and I mean, she wove 20 inches probably in a day because that warping it's like prepping a house to paint. That's right. Takes the time. And then once you start painting, it goes pretty fast. Once you start weaving, it's amazing how fast it goes.
Mm-hmm. And she's doing tabby, right? Plain weave?
No, she's not.
Oh.
She's doing tabby like for the hem kind of. Mm-hmm. And then she's doing, I don't know what the pattern is. Don't ask me. I don't know. But it's.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't know what it's called. But that took us a while too, Kelly, as you know, figuring out the order.
The treadling. Because of your direct tie-up is a little tricky.
So it took 2 brains and Post-it notes on the, for her treadling pattern or sequence. So, but like you learn, right?
Right.
Like she learned a lot. I learned a lot too, just helping her. So,
cool.
Anyway, so should we just talk projects?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll go first since I have the smallest amount.
Okay.
Because of the major project that's going on in my life with labor negotiations at the college. We were in the paper today. The Monterey County Weekly had a small article about us. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. That's just ongoing. You'll be hearing about it off and on. Hopefully not too much longer, but if things don't go well, it might go all through the school year. So, but what I'm working on in terms of fiber, the fun stuff, is the baby blanket that I'm making out of my mom's acrylic leftovers. And Marsha, I don't have a project page up for this. I thought I started one, but I guess I didn't. I will put a project page up for this so that you can link a picture because it's really, I just am really enjoying it. It's really pretty. Robert said, it's really busy. I don't know that I would describe it as busy, but I really like it. So it's a chevron pattern. It's an old pattern, it's called Classic Afghans leaflet.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of knitted chevron. And it has like vertical, it's like a centered double decrease between each of the chevrons. So you've got this row of stitches, column of stitches that are sort of standing proud from the knitting. And those are the edges of each of the little chevron peaks. So, you've got these chevron peaks and then this vertical column and then a chevron peak and a vertical column, which is that's really fun. It's made the pattern really easy to knit on without having to really, pay attention. So it's not stockinette. It's not totally stockinette because you've got the increases and decreases, But it's pretty good. I haven't had to really look at, once I got started, I didn't have to really look at the pattern. You can read your knitting really easily, I think, in this pattern. I'm more than halfway done. I think I'm on the last maybe 12 inches to go. And so I'm starting to repeat the colors from the first part of the blanket. And I'm not doing exactly the same like a mirror image, but I'm trying to, like, there's a dark turquoise that I'm using, that I'm repeating from the first part of the pattern sequence. And there's a gold and a gray and a burgundy. And I'm going to repeat those on the far end of the blanket in similar proportions, just so that it, so that the stripes have a kind of a rhythm, some kind of a rhythm to them, but it will be asymmetrical. But I'm really enjoying this pattern. I am going to have a lot of ends to weave in because it's striped. But I think a chevron pattern is a really good design for using leftovers in stripes. There's something about just straight stripes that's not appealing.
Yeah.
Well, let me say that a little differently. It's much more difficult to make something that is just straight stripes look intentional and balanced, and not just like you put a bunch of yarns together, or you ran out of something and had to put something else in. You have to do a little more thought about your stripes, and that's one of the reasons I like Fibonacci, because you can use Fibonacci to help with that thought process. But with chevron stripes, there's just so much more interest because of the chevrons that it's a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
In terms of your stripe pattern.
I'm just going to add to this is I've had here in my library, or my favorites, a blanket. I can't believe I'm going to talk about this, Kelly, but I have this blanket, that I've had, that I've printed out, and I have it in a basket, and I've been throwing all my sock scraps in there, but it's called Lily's Scrap Blanket, and it's chevrons. And so the idea is you just take all of your scraps, or you could, I have some skeins of sock weight yarn that I purchased that I'm not really sure why I purchased them, because I don't really like the colors that much. And I've had them for years, and I was thinking of breaking those apart and then adding my sock scraps, and then you just wind it all into a big giant ball and just start knitting. And it's what you're saying, it's the chevrons. And so it's to your point, I think it is a nice way to do stripes because it breaks up the stripes and doesn't really break them up, but it does. It breaks the straightness of the stripes. Yeah. And makes it more interesting. Yeah. So I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have thought about that before, but once I started this, I realized, this is a nice design for stripes because I don't have to think so hard. Whereas when I do stripes, I do have to, I like that process of thinking how to put the yarns together. But when you don't really want to do that thinking process, you just want to grab something out of the bag and toss it onto the next stripe. The chevron really helps make that process easy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably why that chevron style of Afghan or blanket's been around for years, because it is so, so
because
workable.
There's a crochet version of the chevron too. And then the other classic scrap blanket in both crochet and knitting is kind of like that linen stitch scarf that you made, where that way you just use one row of each color, and that kind of like your Noro blanket too. That's another way where you don't have to think because it's so mixed up that it just goes together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. Color theory is just interesting to me in design. I have no formal training at all. I was always going to take the design class at Hartnell, and then I just never have. But maybe one day I'll take that design class. Because the principles of design, some of them I know, but a lot of them I don't. And some of them I feel but I can't describe it. I don't have the framework or the schema to be able to say, oh, this is because of XYZ. I just know it when I see it like pornography.
Yeah. You're right.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay. And you know what? That's showing my age, that reference. I wonder if there's so many of those little things that pop into my head and I say them and then I think, do the people I'm talking to, are they even old enough to know what I'm talking about?
I know. Because I'm trying to remember, wasn't it a senator or something?
It was a Supreme Court case. I think it was one of the Supreme Court justices who said that.
Yeah.
About
I can't
pornography.
describe it. Yeah.
I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yarn pornography. We know it when we see it, right? Goodness. All right. So my only other project that I've worked on since we recorded the last episode, which has been quite a while, even though the last episode just came out last week, it sat in my computer for a while. But I had put a portion of about a quarter of the East Frisian fleece into a bucket of cold water. I didn't rinse it or anything. I just put a bucket of cold water, put the fleece in, let it sit there for, I think it was a little over 2 weeks before I finally took it out. I was thinking it was longer, but it was Labor Day, the Monday after the fair, that I put it in the bucket, and I took it out. I think I took it out on the 15th or 16th. Actually, it was a little later than that. Anyway, the beginning of this week, I took it out of the bucket. So it was it had been in the bucket for about 2 weeks, and it smelled horrible. Sulfur mostly. Mostly just that smell of rotten eggs. So I took it out, and of course you want to save the water. So I didn't just dump it. I pulled it out, which meant then I had to squish it. And of course, as I'm squishing it, trying to, squeeze the water out of it, it's getting all over me. I had this dirty water all over my clothes. I had to change before I went in the house, change in the garage and go in the house. So I squeezed out as much of the swint water the fermented swint water as I could. And then I did put it in a bucket, a rinse bucket. I think I'll put it in a rinse bucket twice. And then I put it out to dry. And it still smelled. And everything I read said that the smell is coming from an anaerobic bacterial process. And, something that's happening with anaerobic bacteria. And so once it's dry and it's out in the air and not under the water, those bacteria and that process stops happening. And so the smell will go away. Okay. I didn't really believe it. I thought, I'm probably going to have to rinse this with soap to get this smell out. But no, when it was dry, the smell was gone. I didn't believe it, but it was true. Science works. And so it smells like lanolin. So it's still greasy. I am going to probably wash most of it, or, do a hot water bath with a little bit of soap. But I'm going to end up using a lot less water than what I normally would use because of this process. And I might spin a little bit of it in the grease just so I have a sample of what that, what that process looks like. And I like spinning in the grease. I don't want to spin a whole fleece in the grease, and I don't want to spin a dirty fleece in the grease. But this is clean but greasy now. So that has no time frame on it for when that's going to happen. I took the dry fleece, I put it in my little sack, put it back in the garage with the other fleeces, and I'll deal with what I'm going to do with it next some other time. But yeah, it was a fun project.
Okay, I have 2 questions about this project. The cleaning it in the bucket, everything. And you said you need to save the water from the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What do you do with fertilizer?
Because
plants? What do you do?
Well, no, I'm going to use it to wash another fleece. And they say that it gets more effective the more swint that's in the bucket. The more effective
I missed that when you said
it gets
that.
I don't think I said this.
Oh.
I'm glad you asked this question.
Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to do before I'm ready to spin anything is I'm going to go find something else in the garage to soak in the swint bath.
Oh, okay.
And see how that works. And I think I might look for something that doesn't have much lanolin.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of Romney fleeces. One that I already washed. That was from this year. One part of a Romney fleece I washed from this year. But I've got another Romney that I don't think is washed. And so maybe I'll try that. Because if it's not a very greasy fleece, then just the swint bath might be enough.
Mm-hmm.
The East Frisian was greasier than I thought. There's quite a bit of I thought it was a pretty dry fleece, but there's quite a bit of lanolin on it now that it's clean, and I can really feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I'm going to use it a second time and see how that works.
Okay. And then my second question is, so you're going to try spinning some of it in the grease. So it still has the lanolin in it, but it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to spin that. And so when you spin yarn in the grease, do you then wash it in hot water to try and get that lanolin out? Or do you just leave the lanolin in there and that's the purpose of it? Because it doesn't make it like your garment. If you knit an entire sweater out of yarn that had been spun clean but spun in the grease, would you wear that sweater? Would it be sort of water repellent, or you know what I'm asking?
Yes,
I don't know.
So that's a theory, and I think that that's probably true. And people do spin in the grease and not wash it. I don't do that. I had a skein of yarn that someone gave to me that was spun in the grease and not washed. And it was, when I first got it, it's like, oh, this feels so nice. And then as I didn't use it, it got stickier and stiffer and really kind of gross.
Okay.
And then I tried to wash it so that I could use it. And it was really hard to wash that stickiness out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's ideal. Mm-hmm. I think a little bit of lanolin left on it, not super scoured, like a commercial yarn is wool is scoured, is probably more like what people mean when they say if you leave the lanolin in, you get a more waterproof garment. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that even in the really old days, people didn't just spin greasy wool and never wash the sweater.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to imagine. So, yeah. But I could be wrong. And for outerwear, I guess it might make sense that you would really never need to wash it, but it has a funny feel to it. It gets really sticky and stiff. Yeah. So I will wash it, but once it's kind of spun together, you're going to get less of that lanolin. To me, this is just my thought process. Once it's spun together, there's less surface area of the fibers available to the water. And so when you do wash it, you're going to get less lanolin out of it than you would if you washed it first.
Okay.
That would be my thinking. So I will experiment and get back to you on how it feels. What's the difference? Spin some of it in the grease and wash it. Wash some of it and then spin it, and then compare the two yarns and see. And
then it'll take some time, but to see how they age too.
Right. Right.
Okay. All right.
So
those are
my only 2 projects.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to report in on my projects. So haven't done anything with spinning, so I won't talk about that. My tea cozy, the Nanny Meier Tea Cozy, that is the hot pink and lime green. Haven't touched that. My socks, haven't touched that. So that's really easy.
So Marsha's projects, nothing.
But I have to report in on my Snowflower pullover by Heidi Kirrmeier. And I last week I remember the name of the yarn, but I did not have it in the show notes. So I put it in here, but it's the body of it is the sage green, and it's 13 mile lamb and wool. And then I'm using the same yarn for company for the white for the snowflakes and the red. But I'm using Brooklyn Tweed Tones for two of the contrasting colors, the pink and then like a gray. And so do you remember the last episode, which I have to say, Kelly, I don't hear the episode until you post it. And I usually am walking Enzo when I'm listening to it. And if people can see me, I'm like laughing out loud.
I knew you would be.
Whole discussion.
I knew you would be.
And you had texted me. I had had a very bad day one day, and you texted me, wish you had this to listen to after I recovered from my very bad day. And anyway, I was laughing. It was so funny. So, but I did post. So anyway, let me tell everybody, I'm back on track. I think I had said I was back on track in the last episode. And I won't go through the whole process of what I did, but I'm back on track, and I have knit about 6 inches from where I joined in the round down on the body. And you can put in optional waist shaping, and I've decided to put that in. So I'm making good progress now, and I really like knitting on it, and I think my color work looks great. But I did want to say, I put the question to our listeners if anybody has, a suggestion of how to join that many stitches in the round. And so I just wanted, I had a couple comments in the thread. And so the first was, I think, Michelle Mishembri, and she said that she was doing, it's a sweater called NG. I think that's that Haley Steinglass.
Okay.
No, is that her? That's not her name. Steinglass. Anyway, Jennifer Steinglass, I think it is. And she had the same thing where she had to cast on 344 stitches in DK weight. And unless I'm missing something, she said that the pattern said that you cast on waste yarn, join it in the round and knit 3 rows, and then join the main color and knit the yoke. And then the idea is you're going to go back and remove that waste yarn. But she said she twisted the yarn. So she had knit several inches when she realized she had twisted the join. Even with that, the 3 rows of the waste yarn. And her comment was, it says the pattern asks you to knit 3 rows in the waste yarn, then adding the main color. Next time I will do the 3 rows flat, then join the round with my main color. And my comment, my reply to her, that this is an interesting way I said, this is an interesting way the pattern, I didn't write this the right way. But anyway, basically, interesting way they have you join all those stitches in the round, but isn't joining the waste yarn in the round just as challenging as joining the main color yarn in the round? Unless I'm missing something, right?
I guess maybe if the waste yarn is twisted, it won't matter, and you could just skip over the twisted part, maybe? I don't know. Interesting.
And then Sal Pal said, she says, I'm kind of surprised that these middle out patterns are calling for a chain stitch with waste yarn for the provisional cast on. I recently adapted a pattern to knit in this way and used the main color as a barber cord to do the cast on, rather like a long tail cast on. As far as keeping it untwisted, I used a fairly long cable so I could spread out the stitches, then just held on tight to one end, straightened them all out, and joined. Once it was all joined, I knit around to be sure. I replaced it with a shorter cable. And then she says, I will say this did take me 2 tries. So, and I had to ask what do you know what okay, what does she call this?
A barber cord.
Barber cord. I didn't know what that was.
I didn't either, but I saw her response, and
it's what we got at the
yes, like the try-on tubing that Val made for us. Yeah.
So I didn't know that's what it's actually called, barber cord, and I'm like, my brain kind of exploded a little bit at that because like. What does that have to do? Well, so many terms in weaving and knitting don't really describe it. But anyway, but I'm not really even sure how that prevents it from twisting.
I think it just makes it less likely to twist because it's all stretched out. It's not crunched up on your needles, so you can manage it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think everyone has some kind of hack, but nothing is perfect. Except maybe attaching it to a pillow. But Michelle's comment too, like it seems like she would have, going back, she would knit it flat. Yeah. And then join. Because, right. Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking, as I was reading that I had forgotten during our discussion when I said, just knit it flat and then join and learn how to do not just knit it flat and learn how to do, but I said, where my mind went was figure out how to do the left and right leaning decreases and knit it flat. But that works fine for the cuff of a sock or the bottom of a sweater. But the hole where you knit flat of your actual yarn, not your waste yarn, but the hole of knitting flat and then sewing it up, if you didn't use the waste yarn, that hole would be right in the middle of your sweater, like at your waist.
Well, it would be sort of the beginning around, which I believe, I'm not sure where the beginning
so under an arm, probably.
Yeah, but not exactly under an arm. Yeah. It would be, because it's not a raglan, obviously, right. But you had 4 points, which eventually is where you actually put the sleeves on waist yarn were actually at those points. Yeah. So I think you would have, let me looking at
in this. An odd spot, you would have
it
hole.
Sort of like in the slightly, like just right at your armpit, not under it, but like at the front of it or the back of it.
And I guess my thought process was based on it being at the bottom of your sweater, where it's not a hole, it's just a slit, and you could sew it up. Yeah. Whereas this is actually, because you're going from the middle up, right? And then from the middle down, this is actually in the middle of your sweater. Like, top to bottom, it's somewhere in the middle, right?
Yes, and it's also typically like a hat or socks that I knit flat and then 4 rows and then join in the round. That's usually ribbing. Right. And that's going to hide that more. This is stockinette.
Right.
So
my idea doesn't really hold any water at all. In this context, that idea is probably not a good one at all.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting. But I think, but then now Sarah, Sal Pal, she's casting on and joining in the round and is not having, she's spreading it out. I did put it on a long cable. I actually put 2 cables together the first 2 times. But yeah, anyway, interesting. The discussion will continue. So, anyway, I feel good about that. And I like knitting with the yarn, and I really like the colors that I finally went with, and I'm happy with it. And I'm kind of, when I saw Michelle's post of the sweater, I think it's really good looking at. It's in my favorites now because I kind of would like to do some more color work. I really like it.
Oh yeah, and I didn't take a look at that one. I'm gonna have to go look. I just put some sweaters at the bottom of the show notes that I want to talk about. So I'll add that one that you're talking about to the bottom of this list. Okay.
Okay, and then the other thing I finally started, I cast on, is Santa's Laundry Line by Eleonore von Castelmur. I finished the jacket. It is adorable. It is so cute. And then I've started his pants, and I finished last night. I finished the first leg of his pants. And maybe it's the way I'm knitting them, but he's kind of going to be a groovy Santa because they kind of look like bell bottoms to me. But anyway, it's oh, I'm sorry. I just
bell bottom Santa.
I just snorted when I laughed, but it's adorable. It's like the cutest pattern, and pretty quickly because they knit up pretty fast because they're so small, and not terribly fiddly either. And I'm confused because I thought Aunt Betty and I made the same pattern, but you said her little jacket had set-in sleeves. My jacket are raglan sleeves.
She might have called them set-in, meaning they were raglan. And I think what her preference would be to just knit across more stitches at the start, just to make like a drop. Like, so the sleeves would stick straight out. Just knit across more stitches, and then when you sew it up,
Santa's not really going to wear this, so.
right? And so she was kind of like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we're doing." I can't believe we're doing. So she called them set-in sleeves. So that's why when I was picturing it, I was picturing her sewing them on. Okay. And
that's what I was picturing too.
And so. I thought that's what she meant when she was going on about the sleeves and complaining about why would they do this in a pattern. But raglan makes sense to me as a good way to do it, because then they don't stick straight out. Yeah.
So, darling, super, super cute. And and then I don't have it. In fact, I even hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it because I don't have it on my project list. But you know what I got out? Because what's the date, Kelly?
Oh, yes. We're coming up on October.
So I got the skull out.
Yeah.
And I pulled it out of the box, and I've knit pretty much all the parts. I have pretty much everything knit. I have to just knit. I've done all of the teeth on the jaw, the lower jaw, but now I have to knit all of the teeth. I think there's 26 well, it's accurate. So I don't know how many teeth we have on our upper jaw, but I think. Yeah, 16. Yeah. I have to knit all of those and put those in. And do you remember our good friend Tracy gave me a little ball of gold yarn because I'm going to knit one gold tooth. And so I kind of laid it out and I started looking at it. But what I realized with that pattern, what I really need is I need a quiet day that I can lay it out on the kitchen table with good light and figure out how where everything goes and how I'm going to sew it together and what's the next step. And I thought, with Orkney here, I might be able to do it. But I think there's been so many interruptions and, he needs to go out. And I don't know. Maybe next week. But I think I'm really going to try and get it done. Because I think it'd be really cute to have that skull on a platter in the middle of the dining room table.
That would be funny. Yeah,
so I don't know. There
are a lot of
fingers
pieces
crossed
to put together.
Yeah, and then I have to wash and felt it. So I think I still have to knit like the right now the fabric is just flat, but a skull has like where the nose is, it kind of sticks out a little bit. I have to knit that and attach it, and then like sort of some pieces that attach to where like the cheekbones kind of, I have to knit that. And then I have to do all the teeth. And I think the teeth are knit on 000. I had to buy special needles for those teeth.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. But I think I'm going to take, I don't have anything going on Friday, tomorrow. So I think I may take a fiber day.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And just maybe just sit and concentrate on that skull.
Yeah, because just the knitting of the pieces isn't so much the day where you need to have a day to yourself to have quiet and think. It's the putting it all together that's going to require that kind of concentration.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you luck.
As I say, I hesitate to say this because if I say it, I have to do it. And anyway, but that's it. That's it for me with projects.
Okay. Well, I just want to mention a couple of projects. I have this I had put some things in my queue recently. I'm calling it window shopping. I don't know that I'll ever get to these, but I did add your Jennifer Steingass NG pattern to this list. But I just wanted to talk briefly about these 3 things that have attracted my eye lately. And really, I think the big reason that they've attracted me is the cables. So somebody was talking about wanting to do a sweater with a shawl collar, and we had a discussion about the shawl collars that I've looked for that I didn't think were really big enough. They're kind of skimpy. But there is a sweater out there. If you like shawl collars, there is a sweater out there that has a really nice shawl collar that I think will be nice on all sizes. Because like my dark and stormy, on some of the people, it looks like a shawl collar. On mine, it's not a shawl collar at all. But Barnes by Sarah Solomon, Into the Wool, is a beautiful, cabled, big, thick Aran weight sweater. And that shawl collar is deep and, it stays where it's supposed to be. It doesn't look like it creeps up so that now the collar is just flipped straight up on your neck instead of bent over. Beautiful sweater. I don't know that I'll ever make it, but I have it in my queue because I just think it's really pretty. And then the next sweater is a pullover, and this is a little more doable. Not quite such a big project. And this is Hunting Creek by Laura Ayler. And it's a pullover with cables down the front, and it has a really interesting collar. The collar, it's kind of like a shawl collar, but it wraps in the front across itself. And it's not a full, big, giant shawl collar. But I just like the design of the front, that the way it wraps across itself in the front is pretty. And then the cabling on it is minimal, but I think it's a really striking design to have that front piece. It has like cables on the edge and then pearl stitches in the middle. So anyway, that's more of a maybe it will actually happen kind of sweater. Barnes is very aspirational at the moment. Like that's in my fantasy knitting queue. And then the other one that I thought I could use another poncho. I have a poncho that my mom made me that has gotten kind of pilly, and I think I need to retire it. So this poncho, the Solomon poncho, it's kind of the same diagonal style as the one that my mom made for me, but it's bigger, and it's, when you wear it, it has buttons, or you could sew it closed and then just put buttons on it or not put buttons on it. But because of the way that the rectangle is closed up, you again have this big folded over ribbed collar that looks like a shawl collar, but the cabling is beautiful on it. And so again, I think, so this is basically just a rectangle with cables on it that you sew together in the end. And I think that would also be not aspirational. I might actually attempt this and, not get stuck with too much going on to be able to follow all the cables and all the shaping and all the stuff that's involved in a sweater that's fully cabled. This is just a rectangle, but it's fully cabled and it looks really fun. So
yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah. So those are the 3 patterns that I have been window shopping. And then you have the NG pattern by Jennifer Steingass, which also is really cute. So anyway, just wanted to put those out there. There was a discussion about shawl collars and cables, and it got me looking. I don't think I've added anything to my Ravelry queue before these patterns. I think maybe the last time I added anything to the Ravelry queue was a year or more ago. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of fun to be back looking at what shopping. I might make. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like free shopping.
Yes. Right. Free shopping. So anyway, that's it for me.
Oh, I have one last thing I want to say about projects. About my Neuromania blanket. I think this is very funny. So it's, as you know, it's done, it's washed, it's dried, it's been all rolled up in a nice little ball and put in a bag for my brother to come and take home. Mm-hmm. And he's come by, I don't know, 5 times. I said, you want to take this blanket? And finally he said, no, I don't want to take it home. I don't have room for it right now. So he's he said it's so big, I don't have room for it. Now, he's going to take it. I don't want people to think that he's now rejected. He is going to take it, but he's been working in the garden, and he's also, first of all, he was very sick for a while, a flu bug and whatnot. And so he's back, he's recovered, but he's been cleaning his house. He said it's just gotten kind of out of control, and he has a bunch of stuff he's taking to the Goodwill. And so he said before he's trying to make room for the blanket to come to his house. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That makes sense. That is funny.
That sounds better. So I don't want people to think that he's not taking it, but I had to laugh because it is big. Mm-hmm. And I've had it since when I cast on in January, February or something. Yeah. And so I would like it to go home. So I'm going to have to wait a little longer for it to go home. So it's funny to me that...
You have to sneak it over.
Yeah. I may just go leave it on his front porch someday. So like a foundling in a basket, just leave it there on his front porch.
Oh my gosh. That is funny.
Anyway.
And that is so Mark.
Yeah. So anyway. Okay. I think that's all of it.
Yep. I hope to see people in Lambtown, October 7th and 8th in Dixon. And join our weaving planning chat in the Ravelry group for the winter weave along. The actual thread for the weave along will start, I'll go ahead and put it up closer to October 1st, but we do have some weaving talk going on in a planning chat.
Okay.
All right.
Well, and my dog is now up pestering me, so it's time to go for a walk.
Time to go.
And the other one is just laying here flat. He's looking at me, but he's laying here flat on his pillow. Other than that little bit of barking, flat
he's
on
been
his
good.
Pillow. So, yeah. Okay, Kelly, we'll say goodbye and we'll talk in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us
doing our part for World Fleece.